But she was turning 30. She was utterly single, and now she was being warned that her womb was aging with every day that passed. For someone that had always said she didn't want to turn into her mother, she sure was doing a terrible job of breaking that pattern. Heck, according to Mrs. Williams, she was failing children she hadn't even had yet, and "Too hot!" the woman under the water cried out. "Too hot, Becca!" "Sorry," Becca said quickly, turning the water cooler and trying not to feel too ashamed. Even now, Greg was ruining her life, wasn't he? "You were saying it was Jimmy's 6th birthday last week?" She was relieved when Mrs. Williams settled back down in the salon chair and began to talk once more. Enough, Greg. She had customers to take care of. Becca was sweeping up underneath the chair after her last appointment of the day when the door to the salon chimed. She looked up and inwardly felt a little stab of emotion when Sage Cooper Clements waddled in looking like a plump penguin with her puffy jacket and pregnant belly. The new mayor was the nicest woman, and once upon a time Becca had thought she was the loveliest, most giving person, sweet and shy and eternally single. Then Greg had decided he wanted Sage instead of Becca. Then Sage had turned around and married some tall cowboy and immediately gotten pregnant. Now Sage was the mayor of Painted Barrel and the new darling of the small town. Everyone loved her. Everyone touched her belly when she walked in and asked about her new husband. They asked about her family's ranch. They gave her advice and doted on her. And Becca didn't hate her, not really. It wasn't Sage's fault that Greg had bailed on Becca because he thought he was in love with Sage. It was just that it was hard not to be envious of someone who suddenly had everything you'd always wanted. Not the mayor thing, of course. But a loving husband and a baby? God, Becca had wanted so badly to be in her shoes. She gave Sage a wistful smile. "Hey, Sage, how can I help you?" Sage beamed at her and lumbered forward, all pregnancy belly and layers of warm clothing. She thrust a flyer toward Becca. "I just wanted to let you know that we're having a small business summit next year to promote local tradesmen. All the shops in Painted Barrel and the neighboring towns can rent booths in the gym, and we're going to make a big festival of it. There'll be food and drinks, and everyone can sell goods from their booths. I wanted to invite you personally since you're on Main Street and one of this town's mainstays. I know it's not for a while, but I want to drum up enthusiasm ahead of time." The pregnant mayor beamed at her, and Becca did her best to take the flyer with a modicum of excitement. It was just as Sage said, a festival featuring small businesses. "I'm not sure if I can do a haircutting booth," she admitted. At Sage's crestfallen look, she hastily amended, "But I'm sure I'll think of something. Maybe quickie manicures?" "Wonderful. Just fill out the form on the back and turn it in at City Hall, and I'll make sure we save you a booth, okay?" Sage glanced around the hair salon awkwardly, her hand on her belly. She looked uncomfortable, but Becca kept smiling, even though it felt frozen on her face. They'd been friends before the wedding that wasn't, and now it was a little tricky finding the right footing once more. They smiled at each other for a moment longer, and silence fell. "Please don't say anything about Greg," Becca thought. "Please don't. I'm really sorry about how things turned out, Becca," Sage said softly. She bit her lip, her hand running up and down the large bulge of baby belly under her sweater. "You know, I had no idea that he was going to do that." Becca somehow found it in her to keep smiling. "Don't apologize, Sage. It was all him, okay? No one should have to make excuses for Greg." That big walking human turd Greg. "He's a grown man." "Yeah, but I feel responsible." "You're not." She cut the other woman off, just wanting the conversation to end. Couldn't Sage see that this was the last thing that Becca wanted to talk about with anyone? Certainly not with the happy, glowing, pregnant woman Greg thought he was in love with. "Please, let's just not bring it up ever again, okay?" "Okay, so, I'm going to go," Sage said, thumbing a gesture at the door. Becca held up the flyer. "I'll make sure and get this filled out. I promise." "Great. Awesome." Sage turned toward the door, waving. "I'll talk to you later. Bye." She stayed in place, clutching the broom handle in one hand, the flyer in the other, until Sage headed out of the salon and down the cold, snowy sidewalk of quaint Main Street. Once the other woman disappeared, Becca returned to calmly sweeping. For all of a minute, her hands were shaking, and she gave up, setting the broom down and then walking to her small office at the back of the salon.